Some interviews seem to vanish from a record. Documents are lost. Witnesses go silent. And those who remember choose not to speak, especially when it involves the edge where science touches what we call the supernatural. The name Stephen Hawking is recognized around the world. A visionary physicist, a profound thinker, a man who defied the limits of his body and redefined the limits of human understanding. He explored black holes, the origins of the cosmos, and the very nature of time. But there was one subject he rarely touched in public: life after death. In the spring of 2025, a team of researchers analyzing restricted digital archives from university collections uncovered something unusual in the Cambridge University database. Among confidential files was a strange audio recording. Its title was a string of random digits and letters, but its metadata read, Hawking_consciousness_beyond. At first, it was dismissed as fabricated, but forensic audio analysis confirmed the voice belonged to Stephen Hawking. The recording dated back to the early 2000s, a time when Hawking had largely withdrawn from interviews. It captured a conversation between him and an unidentified interviewer, whose voice was distorted or altered. The initial 10 minutes covered familiar ground, questions about time, gravity, and cosmology. But then came a question that changed the tone completely. Professor, if black holes don't destroy information, could consciousness also survive the death of the body? A long pause followed. You could hear Hawking inhale faintly. Then he replied, I have studied this more than I've admitted publicly. What came next defied the limits of mainstream science. He explained that if information is never truly lost, then cognitive structures, memory, awareness, perception, must also obey this law of conservation. What religions call a soul may not be a separate mystical being, but rather a form of information architecture. The interviewer pressed him. So you're suggesting consciousness can persist? Hawking answered with unusual resolve. In some form, yes, though not in the way traditional religion describes it. He described a hypothesis. Consciousness isn't confined to the brain. It's a quantum-level information field spread across time and space. When the body stops working, the data doesn't vanish. It changes states. In this light, death is not an end. It is a transition. These views sharply contradicted his public stance. Hawking had often said that death meant nothingness. But here, in a private setting, he admitted entertaining a very different theory. And that's when the mystery deepened. Audio analysts reviewing the file noticed irregularities, faint, hidden signals embedded in the track. Digital experts suggested it had been modified or encoded, possibly to hide segments. Still, the most critical parts remained. In the recording, Hawking mentioned that he'd worked with a discrete group of physicists and neuroscientists on a project they called the Cognitive Trace Program. Its goal: to determine if remnants of consciousness could be detected after brain death. They used advanced neural interfaces and laser-based spectroscopy, officially to study memory. But Hawking revealed some trials had yielded startling anomalies. In 2 documented cases, he said, we observed quantum-level activity in lab conditions following a patient's death, activity not explained by known biological decay. The interviewer asked, are you referring to a kind of quantum echo? Yes, Hawking replied. We saw traces, memory, emotion, fragments of individuality, persisting in the surrounding field. Not conventionally, but in structured patterns capable of interaction. This echoed Roger Penrose's work on quantum consciousness, but Hawking's claims went further. He proposed that human awareness, like information in black holes, is never destroyed. It only transforms. I concluded, he said, that consciousness, too, undergoes a change of state. It doesn't end. It evolves. A deep silence followed. Then the interviewer asked, is this what you would call the soul? Hawking's response was barely audible. Without religious context, yes. It is an informational soul. It doesn't belong solely to the body. It's part of quantum reality. At that moment, interference and noise overtook the file, almost as if someone had tried to interrupt or erase the conversation. Using spectral reconstruction, the research team managed to recover the final minutes. In them, Hawking confessed why this work had remained hidden. If we prove the persistence of cognitive traces post-death, everything changes. Philosophy, science, faith, politics. Some will seek truth. Others will seek power. That, he said, was why he withheld the findings. Maybe humanity isn't ready. Then an abrupt end. A click. The recording stopped. But the mystery wasn't over. Examining the metadata one last time, the team noticed something else. A strange code embedded in the description. Coordinates. At first they thought it random. But when entered into mapping software, the numbers pointed to a remote research facility outside Geneva. It was one of the experimental facilities linked to CERN. Officially, this site served to test magnetic systems. But independent sources claimed that in the early 2000s, a secret group of scientists operated there, led by Dr. Mark Euler, a physicist who had previously worked alongside Stephen Hawking. The team began investigating CERN's archives. After months of formal requests and legal steps, they were granted limited access to partially declassified files. Among them were reports labeled Cognitive Echo Project, dated 2002 and 2003. One document stated, during Experiment 14, anomalous quantum radiation was recorded at the moment of the subject's clinical death. The radiation continued for minutes following the verified cessation of cardiac and cerebral activity. Another file contained a phrase that stunned even skeptics. The chance of spontaneous signal emergence in lab conditions is less than 1/1,000,000th of 1%. The recorded effect aligns with the cognitive trace theory. This strongly implied that Hawking wasn't just theorizing about the soul's existence. He and his peers had already witnessed events that might be evidence of consciousness beyond death. But why had this remained hidden from the public? The answer was disturbingly clear. In 2004, Dr. Mark Euler vanished. His trail was never found. Shortly afterward, all members of the Cognitive Echo Group were either let go or transferred. All records were classified. CERN's official files made no mention of the project. After 2003, several individuals decrypting Hawking's interview began receiving anonymous threats, urging them to stop the investigation. One audio analysis expert abruptly quit the project and left the country. Yet, part of the team pressed on, believing the message Hawking embedded in the recording was too important to be silenced. Analysis of the original audio revealed a hidden digital phrase. Consciousness is not a function, it is a path. These words unlocked the next discovery. As they decrypted the message, it became clear. Hawking wasn't merely sharing a theory. He hinted at a real process, a path through which consciousness might persist after physical death. One researcher, Dr. Lewis Harding, a quantum informatics expert, offered a theory. If consciousness is an informational construct, as Hawking proposed, then after death, it may shift into a quantum memory field. This hypothetical state allows personality patterns to survive, not as physical matter, but as waves capable of interacting. Harding referenced the work of Penrose and early ideas from John Wheeler, who suggested that the universe might have memory. If true, then consciousness doesn't merely persist. It may reincarnate. The researchers searched for links between CERN's data and real-world reports of strange memories. They turned to the archives of the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, which had collected over 50 years' worth of childhood past life claims. The correlations were unsettling. In 13 cases, children described events and individuals that matched data from the Cognitive Echo Project and similar experiments. One boy in Texas detailed procedures involving magnetic traps used in Geneva, despite his family's total lack of science or European ties. A girl in California recalled numeric codes, matching test sequences from the project. These accounts couldn't be explained away as chance. Dr. Harding concluded, if consciousness retains information, then new hosts children, could absorb it, their developing brains resonating with quantum echoes of past identities. This theory explained spontaneous memory and so-called return souls. But one mystery remained. Why did some consciousnesses reappear while others vanished forever? The answer lay in previously unreadable audio data. A damaged segment was finally restored. It stated, "Not all patterns align. Only those carrying growth survive. The rest are deleted." This pointed to a kind of informational natural selection. Hawking wasn't just validating the soul's existence. He was suggesting its rebirth followed the evolutionary laws of data. This was scientific reincarnation, and it changed everything. After the publication of the research team's initial findings, a surge of backlash emerged within the tight-knit scientific community. Official representatives from both CERN and the University of Cambridge asserted that such theories lay beyond the limits of empirical science. Some physicists and psychologists went so far as to label Harding's work dangerous speculation. Yet, not everyone in academia dismissed it. Professor Karen Blake, a neurophysiology expert at Princeton, remarked, "Modern science fears questions that challenge long-held dogmas. But if we disregard phenomena that don't fit our models, we halt our own progress." Amid the ongoing debate, the researchers uncovered a new clue. Among CERN's files, they located a document labeled Class C, bearing the lowest level of classification, which made access relatively easy. The report described an experiment conducted in 2002 involving individuals with rare cognitive traits. These subjects were not just intellectually gifted. They displayed spontaneous recollections of events they could not have possibly experienced. The report included the phrase, "A group of carriers of cognitive patterns showing signs of memory transfer. Probability of coincidence, less than 1/1,000,000th." But what stood out most was a reference to the Chosen Eight. This echoed Hawking's audio message. Consciousness is a path. Only compatible patterns continue. Harding's team began to suspect these individuals were not just retaining consciousness. They were being deliberately guided toward a future mission. It seemed speculative, but unfolding events made skepticism harder to maintain. Over the next 2 years, the number of documented childhood reincarnation memory cases rose dramatically. Notably, cases were concentrated in regions like the US, UK, Germany, and Japan. Many of these children demonstrated extraordinary skills in fields such as mathematics, music, and engineering, well beyond their age or upbringing. Some even spoke of undefined missions they were meant to carry out. Dr. Harding contacted the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, and joint research revealed an intriguing pattern. Most of these children were born during times of major societal or technological change. As Hawking predicted, these consciousnesses were not returning at random. They were part of a larger evolutionary design. And the revelations didn't stop there. Harding's team continued compiling data, and the trend held firm. Children born during key transitional periods frequently exhibited both vivid past life memories and profound intellectual abilities. They weren't just recalling previous existences. They were advancing human knowledge in unexpected ways. Many referenced a sense of purpose or duty, though they couldn't always explain what it meant. The researchers concluded that this wasn't chance. Consciousnesses were re-emerging through a structured, purposeful mechanism. The term compatible consciousnesses began appearing in their publications, describing those who seemed to retain information across lifetimes to fulfill current objectives. Then came the most unexpected twist. Dr. Harding received an encrypted message from an anonymous source. It read, "Hawking knew more than you think. This is not the end. This is the beginning." Attached was a file titled Protocol of the Evolution of Consciousness. Inside was a document co-authored by Hawking alongside a small circle of physicists, neurobiologists, and philosophers. It stated, "Consciousness is not produced by the brain. It is a fundamental structure of reality. Black holes and consciousness follow identical laws of information preservation. The soul is an informational pattern that evolves through cycles of life and death. Only those that contribute to evolution persist. The rest fade." It further explained that in times of crisis, compatible consciousnesses reappear to guide humanity forward. At the end was Hawking's signature and a striking statement. The fear of death is the fear of losing form. But information never vanishes. We do not die, we transform. These insights clarified many mysteries: spontaneous memory, unexplained talents in children, and the emergence of individuals who seemed destined to change history. But they also revealed potential threats. Such knowledge, if misused, could become a tool of manipulation. Harding's team made a bold choice. They refused to keep their findings hidden. The research was soon released to the public. The response was explosive. Millions began to reflect on their own memories, unexplained fears, and episodes of déjà vu. For many, it wasn't just another scientific theory. It marked the dawn of a new worldview. As Hawking foresaw, this was only the beginning. If this story made you pause and think, consider supporting us with a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. More astonishing revelations await, ones that may redefine our understanding of life, death, and destiny. Because the journey of the soul is the journey of all humanity, and it is far from over.